The Troubles in Northern Ireland, a nation divided within itself. One of the longest-lasting and bloodiest internal conflicts in Europe during the late 20th century took place in Northern Ireland. This period of conflict, which lasted approximately 30 years, became known in history as the Troubles. This conflict was not simply a religious or sectarian war. Religion was important, but the real issues were political identity, national belonging, historical memory, and of course sovereignty. On one side were the Protestant Unionists, who saw themselves as British and wanted Northern Ireland to remain part of the United Kingdom. On the other side were the Catholic nationalists, who considered themselves Irish and wanted the entire island to be united. The roots of the conflict, the origins of the Troubles, go back centuries. Beginning in the Middle Ages, England gradually established its dominance over Ireland. During the 16th and 17th centuries in particular, English monarchs sent many English and Scottish Protestant settlers to the Ulster region in Northern Ireland. This settlement policy changed the demographic structure and culture of the region. A permanent division emerged between the native Catholic Irish population, who lost much of their land, and the incoming Protestant population. Following the Irish War of Independence in 1921, most of the island gained its freedom, while the 6 northern counties remained part of the United Kingdom. Thus, Northern Ireland was created. After its creation, Protestants formed the majority, controlled state institutions, and maintained their ties with London. Catholics, on the other hand, believed for many years that they were being discriminated against and treated unfairly in political representation, housing allocation, and public employment, the emergence of the Civil Rights Movement. In the late 1960s, Catholics began demanding equal rights. Inspired by the Civil Rights Movement in the United States, activists demanded voting rights, a fair electoral system, and equal public services. To achieve these goals, various marches, demonstrations, and civil protests were organized. However, in 1968, a march held in Derry was violently dispersed by the police. Television footage of the event spread throughout the country. For many Catholics, this incident strengthened the belief that the state was not protecting them and was even oppressing them. The outbreak of violence. In 1969, the situation began to spiral completely out of control. Days of street fighting took place in the Bogside district of Derry. Catholic and Protestant groups confronted one another. As the groups attacked each other, the police also intervened harshly. After the violence reached a point where it could no longer be contained, the government in London deployed the British Army to the region. At first, many Catholics welcomed British soldiers as a neutral security force. However, this expectation proved mistaken, and it soon became clear that the army would not be viewed as a peacekeeping force. The British Army and the IRA face each other. From the 1970s onward, the conflict between the British Army and the IRA became increasingly intense. The IRA's goal was to drive Britain out of Northern Ireland and establish a united Ireland. In particular, the organization known as the Provisional IRA intensified the armed struggle and took it to a new level. Mistreatment during military operations in Catholic neighborhoods, house raids, and strict security measures increased anger within the Catholic community. This situation helped the IRA gain greater support. Bloody Sunday. On January 30th, 1972, one of the events that changed the entire course of the conflict took place. A large demonstration was organized in Derry to protest internment, the policy of imprisonment without trial. During the protest, British paratroopers opened fire on the demonstrators. 14 civilians were killed. The event became known as Bloody Sunday. The shock created within the Catholic community strengthened the ranks of the IRA and led many new recruits to join the organization. Many people began to believe that peaceful methods no longer worked. 1972. The bloodiest year, the year 1972, marked the peak of the conflict. Approximately 480 people were killed during that year. The IRA carried out bombing campaigns. Many British soldiers lost their lives. Bombs exploded in Belfast and Derry. Loyalist paramilitary organizations also began carrying out attacks against Catholic civilians. At this point, the conflict was no longer merely a struggle between security forces and militants. It had become a conflict affecting society as a whole. Failed peace initiatives. In 1973, efforts to find a political solution began. The initiative known as the Sunningdale Agreement proposed a power-sharing government between Catholics and Protestants. However, extremists refused to accept the agreement. Both the IRA and radical unionists opposed the process and attempted to sabotage it. Eventually, the agreement collapsed. Violence once again reached an uncontrollable level. The hunger strikes in Bobby Sands. In 1981, one of the most symbolic episodes of the conflict took place. The British government began treating IRA members not as political prisoners, but as ordinary criminals. In response, IRA prisoners launched a hunger strike. During the strike, IRA member Bobby Sands was elected to Parliament, while still imprisoned. This attracted worldwide attention. However, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher refused to back down. After fasting for 66 days, Bobby Sands died. 9 other prisoners who followed his example also lost their lives. Their deaths became powerful symbols within the nationalist movement, bombings, and assassinations. During the 1980s, the IRA extended its campaign to England. Bombs began exploding in London, Brighton, and many other cities. In 1984, a bombing targeted the hotel hosting the Conservative Party conference, killing several people. Prime Minister Thatcher survived the attack unharmed. Loyalist organizations also continued their attacks against Catholic civilians. During these years, both sides received significant external support. The IRA received weapons from Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, while some loyalist groups obtained support through South African-linked arms sources. Fatigue and negotiations. By the 1990s, both sides had begun to realize that military victory was not possible. The IRA continued its attacks but failed to force the British state out of Northern Ireland. Britain, despite maintaining tens of thousands of troops in the region, was also unable to solve the problem. As a result, efforts to find a political solution accelerated. In 1994, the IRA declared a ceasefire. Loyalist organizations also called for ceasefires shortly afterward. Although the ceasefires were occasionally broken, the peace process never completely stopped. The Good Friday Agreement. In 1998, after lengthy negotiations, a historic agreement was signed. The Good Friday Agreement became the fundamental document shaping Northern Ireland's future. According to the agreement, Northern Ireland would remain part of the United Kingdom unless a majority of its people voted otherwise. Catholics and Protestants would share power. Paramilitary organizations would be disarmed. The police service would be reformed. People would have the right to identify as British, Irish, or both. Cooperation with the Republic of Ireland would be increased. Conclusion. By the time the Troubles officially came to an end, more than 3,500 people had lost their lives. The dead included civilians, police officers, soldiers, and members of paramilitary organizations. The social wounds created by the conflict have still not fully healed. Even today, serious disagreements over identity, history, and politics remain in Northern Ireland. Since 1998, however, the level of violence has declined dramatically. Although the issues have not been completely resolved, the parties now seek to address their disagreements primarily through politics and negotiation. This is considered one of the most important legacies of the Troubles.